We're comparing the new Ricoh GR4 to the Fujifilm X100V. Both of these cameras are highly sought after, especially for photographers shooting in the genre of travel and lifestyle and street and documentary. And most importantly, they both fall within a similar price range. This comparison is purely objective, and I will be breaking it down in two parts. The first part will be the non-negotiables, features that, if not present, should be deal breakers and should instantly steer you towards one or the other. The second part will be more about consideration points, quality of life features, or a niche aspect of the camera that may enhance the experience of the user but isn't absolutely necessary. If the reason you wanted to take photos with a camera instead of a mobile device is because you wanted the more intimate shooting experience, having a viewfinder would be at the top of the list of non-negotiables. There is definitely a big advantage to having a viewfinder. You get a much clearer, unobstructed preview of your scene. You can preview the colors and tonality of the scene without being hindered by external elements like sunlight or glare. If you are somebody who doesn't really like editing photos and want to get it right straight out of camera, the viewfinder is your best friend. There's definitely no contest here. The X100V has a hybrid viewfinder which provides both an optical and electronic option. The Ricoh GR4 has an LCD screen which performs poorly under certain lighting conditions and feels closer to that of a mobile phone in image viewing. While you can attach an optical viewfinder to the Ricoh, you're sacrificing the hot shoe and adding extra size and dimension to the camera, which is actually another point I'll touch on in a bit. That's one point to the X100V. Believe it or not, having a good looking camera is important for some people. Being able to use it as not only a photographic tool, but also a prop to use in your social media stories or reels is a real thing these days. The Ricoh GR4 only comes in black, while the X100V comes in both black or silver colorways. In their base configurations, I'd say the Fujifilm X100V wins hands down. The two-tone look with the viewfinder make it visually stunning, and I can attest, I've gotten compliments for it with some people thinking it was some other camera brand with a red dot. The Ricoh GR4 is undoubtedly much more stealthy and reserved in appearance, but can be accessorized with body vinyls and third-party lens rings. Having an articulating rear LCD screen makes it infinitely easier to shoot at higher or lower angles without having to lie flat on the ground or grabbing a stepladder. Over the many years shooting with the X100V, there were so many times I relied on the flip out screen to get the shot that I wanted. If you enjoy shooting from the chest or hip and still want some way to compose and frame a shot, you can't look past this feature. The Ricoh GR4 has a fixed rear LCD screen, and honestly, it's not great when you're shooting anything that's not at eye level. In order to compensate for this, I'm doing this thing where I have the camera at eye level, I check the composition, and then I slowly raise or lower the camera into position and I tilt it slightly, then pray as I press the shutter. It works 60% of the time, but I don't like wasting time or leaving things to chance. Issues like this compound over time and can get real old real quick. Another solid point for the X100V. There's definitely a debate over the efficacy of IBIS when it comes to certain genres of photography. I'm talking about this purely from the point of view of somebody who wants to shoot travel and lifestyle. You're going to love IBIS. If you don't understand the basic principles of the exposure triangle, please check out my tutorial on it somewhere up there. Having IBIS significantly alleviates one of the bottlenecks many people have to deal with when it comes to getting clean, low ISO images, especially in low light. Basically, there's never really a drawback to having IBIS. The latest Fujifilm X100 has IBIS, but is at a higher price point, so the Ricoh GR4 wins out on this one. I recently took these two cameras on a trip overseas, and the verdict is pretty one-sided. I mean, just looking at these two cameras, you can tell, even with the additional configurations made to both, the Ricoh GR4 is simply unbeatable in terms of portability. The X100V always feels too hefty or too chunky in the jacket pocket, whereas the Ricoh GR4 is just tolerable. It's a no contest. Ricoh takes this one. I just wanted to take a quick second to mention the configurations I have currently on both my Fujifilm X100V and Ricoh GR4 for those who are curious. They are both from a brand called Freewell, and they are both adapted lens hoods with some nifty features. The one I have on my X100V has a built-in mist and CPL filter, and on my Ricoh GR4 it's a modular magnetic hood with UV, glow mist, and CPL filter attachments, and also a thumb grip, which improves the overall ergonomics. Freewell didn't pay me to say these things. I've actually tested these products in the real world and enjoyed the user experience. So if you want to find out more, I'll include the links down in the description below. By no means a deal breaker, but battery life is important to certain people. The physical size of these two cameras and their respective batteries are nothing to write home about, but if we're going to compare, the X100V wins over the Ricoh GR, all setting adjustments that maximize the lifespan of the battery taken into consideration. Exposure triangle settings adjustment without turning on the camera. And what I mean by that, see, on the X100V, there are physical dials to control the ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and exposure compensation. This means you don't need to turn the camera on to make changes to these settings, which means you save some battery life. The Ricoh GR does have dials, but you need to turn the camera on before the changes can be made. Both the Fujifilm X100V and Ricoh GR4 have built-in customizable preset color profiles to choose from. Fujifilm definitely has more stylized options to choose that give photos a certain vintage or film-like look straight out of camera. Most of the film simulations were inspired by analog film stocks, for example, a fan favorite, classic chrome, or black and white Acros. Ricoh has its own set of simulations, or image controls as they call it. From what I've seen, the two cameras take a different visual approach, so there's no real crossover in terms of how the color profiles look. Both cameras can render really nice colors, although I will say Ricoh has a cool black and white profile called high contrast black and white, which creates a super unique look that can't really be replicated on Fujifilm. Best way to determine what looks best for you is to go onto Reddit and visit threads where people show off their straight out of camera photos. When it comes to speed of operation, there's always the consideration of whether you wish to do that one-handed or not. If you're the kind of person that doesn't mind using both hands, then the X100V with its dedicated ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and exposure comp dials is a pretty intuitive and fast camera to work with. But if you want total control with the added caveat of using one hand only, then the Ricoh GR4 is the superior choice. Given its compact size and thoughtfully placed buttons and dials, everything is within reach on the right-hand side, giving you complete freedom to use your left hand for other tasks, such as holding a drink or carrying a shopping bag. You get the point. Again, both these cameras are pretty equal in speed of operation. It just depends on how you prefer wielding your camera. I'll be extremely honest and say both these cameras aren't the greatest when it comes to autofocus capabilities. However, I will say the X100V, despite being the older camera, performs better in autofocus, especially when it comes to low light. The Ricoh GR4 is fine in good lighting, but starts to fall apart in low contrast or low light scenes. However, for those who are unaware, the Ricoh GR4 has a unique feature that essentially eliminates the need for autofocus, if you know what you're doing. It's called snap focus, and basically how it works is the camera has a set of predetermined focus distances, and by selecting, say, 2 meters, when you full press the shutter button, the camera will instantly snap focus to 2 meters and take a photo. The application for using snap focus is pretty niche, as I don't imagine people outside of street photography fully utilizing this feature. However, if you're somebody who enjoys shooting in fast-paced environments and is good at judging distance, then the Ricoh GR4 gives you that zone focus experience without having to sacrifice switching it to manual focusing. I hope this video has helped you in your decision-making process. Which camera would you go for and why? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.